Okay, so welcome to the Scratch Math Maze webinar. I am definitely not a Scratch expert, and that is definitely going to be on display in this program. It's got a pretty major bug in it that I've actually come to love, and so I'm not planning on fixing it, even though I have an inkling of how to do it now. And so that's an important part of coding that we're going to talk about too, that sometimes your users are going to find ways to interact with your programs that you did not intend. And you need to decide, well, am I going to update it so that that bug is no longer there and they can't exploit it? Or do I think that that's something I'm just going to lean into and let my users enjoy doing this little thing that I didn't mean for them to do, but they clearly are. So I'm going to show you this little presentation that I have. You have access to this. It is in the Scratch tutorial resources folder. So if you want to be following along with this, this has all of the code that we're going to be making today. So if I flip off of my screen too fast and you want to go back and look at it, you can access that folder. So this is what our program is going to look like to users. We don't necessarily have to have a goalie glove and a soccer ball, but basically we're going to have something that the user manipulates and then some end thing that'll have a little celebration when they get to the end of the maze. And then our backdrop today is going to be a maze. So this is a sprite and this is a sprite, and then the maze is just the background, the backdrop. So with the soccer ball, these 4 bits of code are just going to be what we make to allow the user to control the direction and the movement of the soccer ball with the arrow keys. Okay, this up here tells the soccer ball to go back to the start location. So if they stop in the middle of the maze, it'll send it back to the beginning for the next person who plays it. And then this is a forever loop that is checking to see if the soccer ball is touching purple, purple being the color of our maze, okay? If it is touching purple, the program is going to pick 2 random numbers and store them in 2 variables, mult1 and mult2. And I chose those because I'm going to have them multiplied together. I use this ask command with a bunch of nested joins to ask what is the first random number, mult1, times the second random number, mult2, question mark. And then if their answer is correct, it tells them good job and moves them 10 steps. Then if they don't answer the correct answer, it sends them back to the beginning of the maze. So they have to start over. All right. The goalie has some code, but it's really just a celebration dance. It isn't relevant to that part of the program. So you can have your thing do whatever. And I'm not going to talk anymore about the bug. So if you would join me on Scratch, you can, if you like, just go to our NASA IVV ERC Scratch program, go to the Math Maze and copy this for your own. There will be a remix button up here that's green when you're looking at it from not being logged into our account. And you can just copy this maze. You can change the color, you can change the sprites, whatever you want to do if you don't want to code it yourself. But I'm assuming you're here because you do want to code it yourself. And so if you would click on the create button, you'll make a new program. So get yourself to scratch.mit.edu and click create to make a new program. Everyone doing okay so far? I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Okay, every time you start a Scratch program, it puts the Scratch cat in there. We don't want the Scratch cat today, so that's fine. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna go and look for a background. So I'm gonna make a new tab and just Google maze. I'm going to go to images because I want an image of a maze. And wow, these are like way too complicated. So I'm going to choose just a simple maze. I don't want one that's too difficult. This one's pretty simple. This one's pretty good too. I think I'll take this one for today. Okay, you pick any maze you want though. I wouldn't do one that's like insanely complicated, because if it's really small, you're going to have to make your sprite so tiny so it can fit through it without touching the sides. So I would take one that will give you some space. If you were in the storytelling webinar with me, I made a big deal about finding one that has a transparent background. That's really just for importing sprites because they'll be in front of the background, and so you don't want their white space around them blocking it. You can use a maze that has white space though, because it's going to be in the background. So it doesn't matter whether it's a ping or whatever kind of image format it is. I'm gonna right click on it and say save image as. Right click if you're on a Mac is you hold control and click. And then I'm just gonna remember that I saved it to the desktop so that when I get it into Scratch, I will remember where to pull it from. Okay. So even if you haven't found your maze, bounce back over to my window so I can show you how to import a background. This is our regular Scratch pane. We've got our code blocks that we can pull in over here. This is our code field. This is what our program looks like to our users, and right now it's just blank. To change that, over here where it says stage, at the bottom, if I hold my mouse over choose a backdrop, I have the option to choose one of their backdrops. I didn't actually check to see if Scratch has a maze. They probably do. So you probably could just find a maze in there. Paint is you can make your own. So you could draw a maze. Surprise is random. But the one I want is upload backdrop. So I moused over, choose a backdrop down here at the very bottom right. And then I went to the option on top that says upload a backdrop. From there, in my window, I just make sure I go to the desktop and pick simple PNG maze. And there I have my maze. Now it's opened up the editing, the picture editor that it has built in. I kind of don't like these arrows on here, so I'm gonna click to my eraser and see if I can get rid of those arrows. Like, who's gonna, don't tell me which way to do my maze. Right, maybe I wanna start at the end and go to the beginning. Okay, so you can edit that. The other thing I want to do is I want to change the color because I think black is kind of boring. And so I'm going to make like a dark green kind of maze. And to do that, I picked a color and I'm going to click this paint bucket. And then I'm just going to click on my maze with my paint bucket to change its color. And you can see there's still some black lines that haven't totally switched over. If you want to, you can try to get those. You can zoom in on your background to really get in there tight, but I don't really care. And that might happen, and I just don't want to deal with that. If that does happen, don't worry. There's an undo button up here. If you just click undo, it'll go back to normal, okay? So is everyone kind of like okay with their maze right now? We're sort of all right. Okay, this is good. So now we're done with our stage, we're done with our backdrops, and we want to go back to make a sprite. So I'm going to choose a sprite from this menu, and I think I want it to be something that is small. Laura, let me know if you need me to slow down or go back to something. That is okay. We're good. So I'm going to pick something that'll look good when it's tiny, and that would make sense to go through a maze. Oh, I like this crystal. We had this crystal this morning in the basic Scratch, and it didn't end up working out too well for us. But I have a good feeling about the crystal today. So the crystal is going to be how I'm going to get through my maze. That's going to be my player-controlled character instead of a soccer ball. And it's pretty small, but I'm a little bit worried about how well it's fitting through here. So I'm going to change its size from 100% to 90% and see if that shrinks it enough to make me happy. Yeah, I'm not going to control that with code. This is just what its current situation is, and I can alter these numbers right now. X and Y are where it is on the screen. Scratch is underlaid with a coordinate plane, and so it's at -X because we're on the left side of the screen, and it's at +Y because we're above the middle line. So there's like a coordinate plane you would imagine going right through the center of it. Okay. So now that we've got this in here, we're going to code it for motion. And every time we code anything we want to actually run, we have to start with one of these event blocks that has this curved top to it. That's what's going to allow our program to run. And I'm going to want to use the arrow keys up, down, left, and right So I'm going to pull in 4 of these when space key is pressed, and then I'm going to change them to when up arrow is pressed, when down arrow is pressed, when right arrow is pressed, when left arrow is pressed. Okay, so I'm just deciding, I know that I'm going to want 4 directions for this, and then I'm going to go up to motion, and I'm going to use these change X by and change Y by blocks. Okay, so when the up arrow is pressed, I want to change Y by 10. When the down arrow is pressed, I want to change by Y by negative 10. 10 is not a very big step. So I'm going to press up 1 time, and you see it does not move my crystal very far. Okay, it's 10 pixels, I think is about what it is. So then for X, I'm going to change X by 10 when the left arrow is pressed. Oh, when the right arrow is pressed. And then I'm going to change X by negative 10 when the left arrow is pressed. Okay, so at this point, you should have code so that your little, whatever you've chosen for your little object can boogie its way around the screen when you press the arrows. And I still think this is just so cool every time that I pull in this code blocks, and then all of a sudden I can control how my little character moves on the screen. I like it a lot. It's fun. Okay, so give me a yes or a ready to go or something in the chat when you've got your little character moseying around the screen, and let me know if you want any help. I'm happy to take control of your screen and see what you've got going on. Okay. Looks like people are doing good. Okay. Now, the last thing we're going to do that's super duper easy before we start getting a little complicated, and complicated's good, it means we're learning something, right? We're going to have it go back to the beginning when we click the start button. So that way, if someone leaves their crystal or whatever in the middle of the maze, they'll start back here. So I'm going to pull in this when the start button is clicked, because when that green flag is clicked is when your player starts playing their game. And I'm going to go up to motion, and you'll notice that these X and Y values are the same as the current X and Y values. This is such a nice feature on Scratch. I can drag this crystal anywhere I want it, and that X and Y updates, and it updates over here. So I can drag it wherever I want it to be, and then pull in this block and say when the start button begins, that's where my crystal is going to show up. Okay, good. Next, we want a block that says when this flag is clicked, if we're touching green, then we're going to do something. But we also want something to, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I pulled in a when the flag was clicked, when the green flag is clicked from events, and then I went down to control, and I want this if then loop. Okay, so if then has this hexagon gap in it, and in the gap we can put things that are shaped like a hexagon. The thing we want is in sensing, and we want this touching color block, which is the second one down. So if we're touching color, then we're going to do something. But this is not the color we want. We want it to be green. And I don't have to guess what my green is. I can use this eyedropper. And you see that little tiny square inside of the bubble? That's the color that I'm on. Like it zooms in super far so I can see my crystal really good too. And the outside changes color. Just get it somewhere on whatever color you've made your maze and click. And now that block is set so that if it's touching the color of your maze, then something's going to happen. Okay, which is, it's really cool. I like it. Okay. So now what I want to have happen is I want it to ask a math problem, and I don't want to have to program in 500 math problems and tell it to randomly choose one or the other. I want it to pick a random number. And so I need it to remember what that random number is though. So I'm going to need to create some variables. Okay. My variables that I'm going to create, and I'm going to do a multiplication program. You could do addition, subtraction, division absolutely as easily. I think there's probably other things you could do pretty easily, but we're not going to get into that today. So I'm going to make a variable that's called mult1, another one that's called mult2, because I'm going to have it pick two random numbers to multiply together. If you have a kid who needs to practice their times sevens tables, you can make this be one variable and then always have the other one be 7. And then it's going to pick a random number and make the kid multiply it by 7. I'm also going to make a variable called correct, because I want to be able to know what the correct answer is. You'll notice as I made these, check marks appeared next to them and they showed up here. I don't need to see these variables. And I definitely don't want to tell the kid what the correct answer is. So I'm going to uncheck all of those so they're just not blocking my view. All right. Now, I wanted to pick a random number and then set multiple 1 and multiply 2 to that correct number, or to that new random number. So the blocks I'm pulling in now are still from the variable menu. I'm pulling in set ones. So set mult1, set mult2, and I'm also going to put in set correct at this point. So I've got 3 variables and I've got 3 set blocks for them. And the next thing I'm going to do is pretty cool, and I'm still excited about it. I'm going to go to my operators menu. This circle, I can have a number in it, or I can pull any of these circular blocks into it. And the one I'm going to choose is the pick random block. So you see when I hold it over there, how that turns white around it? That means I can drop it in and it will accept it. So now I'm going to set multiple 1 to a random number between 1 and 10. And I like extending my multiplication tables out a little bit. So I'm going to say pick a random between 0 and 11. That's totally fine. And then pick a random number between 0 and 11 for multiple 2 as well. Okay. Are you sort of with me so far? We're putting in some random numbers. These are going to be whole numbers. These are not going to be decimals. I think I could probably figure out how to get decimals in there using the random numbers, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to have a very simple math problem in our maze. So when the player hits the wall, it's going to pick 2 random numbers and it's going to store them in the variables mult1 and mult2. To get the correct answer, we need to multiply mult1 and mult2. We need to multiply those 2 variables together, because the computer is not going to do it unless we tell it to. And I want to be able to check whatever the person puts in it for their answer against that variable. So I'm going to use this operator right here that says bubble times bubble. That's what I'm going to set my correct answer to, right? Because I'm doing multiplication. If you were doing addition, you use this one on top that's a plus. And then I'm going to go back down to variables, and I'm going to do mult1 times mult2. Okay, so now I've got 3 variables. One's a random number between 0 and 11. The other is also a random number between 0 and 11. And the third is whatever those 2 multiply to, their product. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in an ask block. And I'm going to ask, instead of what's your name, I want to ask what's multiple 1 times multiple 2. That's a long thing because I need those 2 variables in there and some text. So I'm going to have to use joins. And if you were with me earlier in the story time training, we use joins in there as well. So join is under the operators menu, and it's the one that has words in it down here. So we're going to join apple and banana, but we're not going to join apple and banana. I can drop this in there and you see how it's changing white, so it's going to fit in there. We're going to join multiple 1. I'm going to write the X for multiplication, and then we're going to join multiple 2, but we don't have enough bubbles for that. We only have 2. So what I can do is I can keep putting joins in there, and now I've got 3 bubbles. So back down to variables. I'm going to do mult1 times, and I'm going to use the star, why not, times mult2. So this doesn't have any other syntax with it. It is just going to show up as number star number. And I think I can work on that now. No. Why didn't that work? Oh, I know why it didn't work. Does anyone who is in the basic Scratch training know why it's not working? Why it's not asking me what to do? I've been talking for a long time, and I'm sure that people need to catch up. Yeah, so green flag, what else do I need here? It's only checking if I'm touching green when it starts. And I'm never touching green when it starts because I have it go over here. So I need to put in a forever loop to say, I always want you to check if this is happening. And luckily I don't have to do too much. I can pick up this forever loop and pop it around the whole thing. You can see it's going to go around the whole thing because its gray jaws go on the outside. If they're going on the inside, that's not going to be what I want. I can put it anywhere, but I don't want it anywhere. I want it here. So yeah, we're going to use a forever loop. And now, oh, I didn't click start. I do need to click start now, because I've clicked start, you can see it's yellow around this. This means this bit of code is active. So it is currently checking to see if I am touching the green side. And it pops up 1 times 6. If I put in 6 and hit enter, it's just going to ask me another one because I haven't changed my position, right? I'm stuck now where I have to continually answer math facts and nothing else is happening. It's cool that that part of the program worked, and I'm glad that we checked it. But now let's have some more, like, let's have it do something so we don't just get stuck in this, like, oh, you touch the side? Guess what? It's math time forever now. Okay. So what we want it to do is we wanted to check to see if the answer, if what is put in is correct. Because actually, if I had been typing in incorrect answers here, if I put in 8, it doesn't care right now because I haven't told it to care. Okay. I want it to care though. I definitely want to know if the kid is giving me the right answer or not. So I'm going to put an if then else loop in because I want something to happen if the kid gets it right. And I want something to happen if the kid gets it wrong. Okay, so this if and then, we're going to check to see if the answer is correct. If it's correct, then something good will happen. If it's not correct, then something bad will happen. And this is going to go inside the if loop that we already have just under the ask join, and wait. Okay, so far so good. Now we're going to need to go to operators, and we want this one that says equals. And it'll fit right in that hexagonal box, and we can tell it's going to fit there because it turns white. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to sensing. We asked it something, and so it is storing an answer. Oh, Margie will get you there. Okay. If answer equals, and then we'll go to variables, correct, right? Because that's what the right answer is. Answer is whatever the kid types in. If the answer is correct, then at a minimum, I want to tell them good job. So I'm going to have the thing say good work. Okay. So let's see if that part works. Go down. 0. Good job. And then did you see it flipped like instantly? That's probably not what we want to have happen. We probably want it to wait a little bit longer or do something. And also, I would want it to back up, right? Like, if I hit the wall here, I want it to change direction. And so I'm not in the wall anymore. So I've hit this one on the side here. If I move -10 steps, I'll go backwards. This is the bug, by the way. If you're like, why is she doing it this way? It's because I'm reproducing the bug from when I first started, because I like to. So if I hit it here and say 60, it moves me backwards and says good job, and I can go on my way. Okay. If I hit it here, it's moving me 10 steps in that direction, until I'm not touching the wall anymore. Okay. So some places the kids are going to hit it and they will be able to answer one multiplication problem and they're free. Some places they hit the wall and they're going to have to answer a bunch of multiplication problems until they're free. So that's kind of a cool thing. I'm going to give people time to catch up. Margie, you said your multiplication is not coming up. Do you have an ask in there where things are being asked?
Yeah, I do. Can I just share my screen?
I'm gonna
I'm
stop
on my
share and then you show us
iPad
what's
now.
going
Show
on.
you my computers. Okay, so how do I do that on my iPad to show you my computer screen?
That's a great question. I
Oh,
am
wait a
not,
minute. I got
did you
it.
get it?
No, I just have to turn. Oh, I got it. Yeah, just a minute.
Good. Oh, this is great. Okay. So, oh, it's really, okay. So I see you've got your join in there. You've got your multipliers. Did you click the green flag? Because I don't see the yellow halo around the outside of yours. So it doesn't look like this is running. Try clicking that green flag up top.
Oh, it's working. That's what I did.
Good,
Thanks.
good. That's an easy fix. That's the best.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions? Any other issues people have so far? Okay, so I'm going to show the bug in full detail right now. So I'm having go, okay, so let's say I run into this wall. I can work myself out of the maze and then just scroll myself around and go to the end of it. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say this is a bug. Having it just move minus 10 steps, which was my first thought when I'm like, okay, I ran into something. I'm not sure how to say like, okay, if I ran into it from this direction, I want to go the opposite way. If I go into it from this direction, I want to go the opposite way. So I just said, okay, well, I'll just make it move and then it'll be someplace else and I can worry about it later. I think that there's a bounce command. Yeah, this if on edge bounce. I don't know if I can make that work or not. I'm actually not sure. I thought that there was a bounce that wasn't just on the edge. I think if on edge bounce is just if you're on the edges of the screen. So if you've got like a ball moving around and it hits one side, it'll start going in the opposite direction. So I'm not really sure how to fix this, but I kind of like that it provokes a little bit of creative thinking. If instead of move 10 steps or negative 10 steps, I changed it to move 10, then it creates an easier way to get through the maze, right? Oh, well, not now. I just hit that on accident. I probably have this too big. Ugh, I do not want to do that many math problems. So let's say I was down here and I came here and I started doing math problems. If I do a few math problems, I can take a shortcut through the maze and get to the end. And I kind of like kids making that trade-off between doing the maze correctly and doing some math problems to get there faster. I almost want to encourage that by building in a little timer or something that allows you to like compete with your friends and see who can get the fastest time. Is it faster to go through the maze with math, or is it faster to go through the maze traditionally avoiding the walls? Either way, we want to definitely code something to happen if they don't have the correct answer, right? Because this loop right here is saying, if the answer is correct, say good job and move 10 steps. But we don't have anything that will happen else, which is if they get the math problem wrong. My thought on get the math problem wrong is I'm just going to copy this block by right-clicking on it and say, you're going back to the beginning of the maze. Maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you want to say, try again, or something like that, and give them another chance. Maybe you want to just have the thing spin in a circle because that looks kind of cute to spin it in a circle. And just like tell them like, okay, try again, new math problem. So you have a lot of options of what you want to do there, and just think about that. But right now, if I'm at the end of the maze, oh, I must have, it's always a good idea to restart after you add new code. Okay, so if I go down here and I run to the wall and I say that 5 times 1 is 7, it pops me right back to the beginning of the maze. So I'm going to try to get through without hitting the wall. The larger you make your object, the more difficult it is, right? Tell me if you're having problems, if you have questions, if you want to see something. Otherwise, I'm just doing my maze. Oh, I was so close. So these could definitely be bigger numbers too. You can change those. If you don't want them doing their times zeros and times ones, you could move that up. You could make it adding 3-digit numbers. You could do anything you wanted with the math component of this. And you could even have your students take this maze that you have and remix it and tell them, okay, this is a multiplication maze right now. I want you to change it to an addition maze. My ball is only going one way. Yes. Yes, that is the question, person who is on the iPhone, that I don't really have a solid answer to right now. I'm not sure how to detect which way you were hitting the maze. And I think you need to somehow record that in order to say, okay, go back the other direction. So I don't have an answer for that yet, but I guarantee if I did some research online, I would find an answer to that. And we could even look for other mazes and see what their answers were. Some mazes I know just won't let you touch that color. And so they'll keep you off of the color, but I want them to touch the color because I want them to have to do a math problem. Okay, so events. Let's see about events. Inspires click on this. I don't know. So the last thing to do is to record some kind of a like happy thing that happens at the end of the maze. And so I'm going to make some kind of happy thing that happens at the end of the maze. I'm not really sure what a crystal wants to be around. So I'm just going to pick something. Glasses are cute. Yeah, let's do glasses. That sounds like fun. Okay, so I'm going to take this sprite, move it to the end of the maze. I don't really like the red glasses, so I'm going to change its costume. I saw there were a bunch of them in there. We'll do the star glasses. Okay. And then I don't think I want to change anything about the crystals. So I'm not going to add anything, or sorry, about the glasses. So I'm not going to add anything to their code. But I'm going to say when the crystal gets down here, so if the sprite is touching, isn't there? I guess I'm going to do another forever loop. If the sprite is touching, I'm using an if then. So I'm pulling in this touching block from sensing. I'm going to change it to glasses. So if the sprite is touching glasses, I want the sprite to get bigger. Okay. And so I'm going to change its size. Let's change it from 90 to, well, how big is 300? Oh, it got too big. Oh, that's not going to work because then it's going to touch the maze. That's not good. Okay, so I broke my program trying to do a fun thing. That's cool. So we won't make it go 300. We'll change that. We're gonna leave it at 90. And instead, we're gonna make the glasses shrink down to fit it. So I'm gonna go back to glasses, which I said I wasn't gonna do. Go to events, pull in a when this is clicked, put in a forever loop because we want it to keep checking the whole time the program is running. Put in an if then, go to sensing. If we're touching crystal, then we're going to change our looks, which are going to be our size. And let's see, I think I had the crystal at like 90%, but these glasses are pretty big. So what does 50% look like? Oh yeah, 50% looks good. And let's go. So we're going to set the size to 50%. And we're going to say, go to that spot that it's in right now. And we're going to go there with a glide. So that's like a sliding motion instead of just appearing there. Because I changed how it looks and how it is, I'm going to go back and put in a new, when this button is clicked, start button clicked, to say I want it to change back to being 100%. And I want it to go back to where it was, which was like down here. So it's positioned. So I'm returning it to its start characteristics. Okay, now I'm going to take my little guy down here. And it slid and it went up there. So I want my little guy my little crystal to be up there too. So at the same time as that is happening with the glasses, I also want my crystal to glide to that same place. And to get those two things to happen at the same time, I'm going to broadcast a message. So that's an event that isn't a start block. Our message is we're going to call it win. Okay, so when you win the maze, the crystal is going to change its size, or sorry, the glasses are going to change their size and glide, and then broadcast win. And then for the crystal, I can say, when I get the message win, so when I receive win, I want it to be at the position it's at now, but I also want it to be at the back. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to say glide to your current position, right where it is now. So it looks like it's wearing the fun glasses. And then I want looks, I think is where that goes. I want it to go to the back layer, because then the back layer will make sure it's behind the glasses. So now I've got the little guy wearing glasses. Okay, that was a lot, and that was really like off track. I don't feel like that was very like useful for what we're doing. How are we doing with our maze? Oh, and then I can't move it afterwards. Like, look at that. It's really trying to, and it's like, okay. Anyone have any thoughts about how we could code it? What just happened? I totally have broken my program. Why did that happen? That's super fun. Okay, I'm going to delete this because maybe that's doing something. So maybe something with the glasses? If it's touching the crystal, set the size and glide, broadcast win. When this is clicked, whoa. I am totally mystified as to why that's happening. Okay, well, I broke my maze. That's okay. I'm guessing that if I start deleting stuff, we'll be okay. Yeah. So it must be getting the message win when I don't want it to, right? Because what I deleted was that when I receive win, glide down there. it was gliding through the maze and hitting the wall and getting the messages. So why were the glasses broadcasting when? If I'm touching the crystal, then set size broadcast when. It shouldn't be happening. I don't know. That's really weird. So let's try that again on crystals, see if when I receive when. Okay, I think I know what happened. I think what the issue was is that I hadn't clicked stop and then the start flag again. Remember how a little bit ago I said it's a good idea to click the start flag whenever you change your code? Yeah, I didn't do that, and that just goes to show you that it is a good idea. I think it was already getting wind from down here, and without clicking, yeah, that's so weird. So it's starting out the program. I know what to do. Okay, I figured it out. So when the start flag is clicked forever, if it's touching the crystal, then broadcast when, set size to 50, and then glide. And then it's telling it to glide too. So this forever loop, I'm gonna put a wait block in between when the start button is pushed and when it starts. So I think what was happening is that they were already on top of each other because I had successfully navigated the maze. And then it was broadcasting when at the very beginning. It wasn't receiving it until the crystal had already gone up here, and then the crystal's trying to glide to the end of the maze. So let's see if that works. Yay. So that little wait block just means that you can't win in the first second of the game, which is fine. But then it stops that glitch from occurring, which was not a glitch that I wanted. Okay, so that was way off the rails, like not what I was expecting to have happen, but that's what happens with coding, and you just have to like keep thinking through it. Earlier today, I said it's like if you've ever had that assignment where you have to write out the directions to do something, like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then someone has to follow your directions exactly as you have written them. And invariably, you have been unclear or left something out. And humans with average experience will fill that stuff in. This code will not. It is not going to be like, oh, she didn't really want the thing to jump all the way across the screen and run through the maze to get to the end because it was starting there. That's silly. No. So you've got to figure out and problem solve and troubleshoot. So what is going on with your mazes? How are you? Where are you at? How can I help?
Hey, Emily.
Yeah.
I did something, and now when I press my right arrow, it makes it go to kind of diagonal to the left.
So when you press right, it goes down and to the left?
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Okay.
Not really.
So, not what you were looking for though, huh? Is it because it's touching something?
No.
Okay.
I
Can you
don't
share
know,
your
because
screen?
I took the one command out. Yeah, I'll try to do that.
Oh,
Well,
I
I'm
see.
going to, I'm on video. Do
Yeah,
you see
yeah,
my screen?
yeah.
Because I
I'm
can't
gotta
see.
stop sharing. So Heather, if you want to see the glasses more, take a screenshot real quick, okay? I'll put it back later though, if not. But I just want to see. Oh, beautiful. Okay. So That's not the part I want to see. I want to see the part where you've got your arrow keys coded. Okay, so it still looks like you have the same as everyone else, where if you press the right arrow, you go in right. So go over
Yeah,
to your,
where I took something out that messed it up.
man. Okay, so
See, I took out thing right here. The move minus 10, I took that out.
okay,
And then here's my, and then what was I said, well, when it was clicked, if touching goalie, then I wanted to play a sound.
mm-hmm.
I wanted to repeat the turn 15
Yeah,
degrees for 10 times and then say
nice.
you win.
Yeah, I love it.
So, but I don't know. Sorry,
So
just play
show me the
advanced
actual program,
celebration.
like move it over and show me what it looks like when you are, how your sprite behaves when you press
Okay,
it.
so here it is. Now I'm pressing, okay, here's when I'm going down.
Yeah,
Now when I press the right, it
yeah.
goes left diagonal.
So you pressed right and it went into the wall.
Yeah.
That is so bizarre. Okay, so if you had pressed left, do you think it would have hit purple?
I'm not sure.
Because
Now
maybe
it
if,
left goes right.
because maybe
Oh,
if it
because
would
you
hit
know
the
what? I spun
purple,
it around.
yeah, you
You
have
know
something in
what?
your
So
code.
I spun the ball around 10 times. Now the right, I got
You think
it.
you
It's
got it?
just,
Okay.
yeah, I do. I understand now. Thanks.
Excellent, of course. It really helps to have two people troubleshoot on that. Okay, whoever is on the iPhone, you're only getting multiplication problems when you move right or left. When you move up or down, even if you hit the line, you don't get problems. Let's see that. Can you share with us? Because I have no idea why that would be happening. It should check for the color no matter what. Why it would be checking for the color sometimes and not other times seems very strange. I love it though.
Okay, I'm trying to get it to record, but yeah, it's only when I move right or left, but when I go up and down, it won't give me multiplication problems.
So
So
does
try
it
to
just
get it
go through the maze? Like does it just go through the walls?
yes.
It's so weird. Okay, fantastic.
Okay, let me try. Uh, it's not wanting to show video. It's telling me my camera
Oh,
is not
yeah,
wanting to
Zoom is
show video.
sometimes weird if you haven't used it before and it wants you to give it certain permissions before it'll let you do things.
Yeah. Uh, let me try to go back to my screen and connect there again.
Absolutely. I do think I figured out how to make the maze behave the correct way. I think if you have a new variable that you call direction and you assign like right is 1, left is 2, up is 3, down is 4, or something like that, under each of the movement blocks, when you're moving, you can change the variable to the direction you're moving in. And then you'll have a series of if statements where, like I think I said right was 1. If 1 is how you hit the maze, then go 10 to the left if 2 was how you hit the maze. So it's going to make it a lot more complicated. That happens with coding, where if you change anything, everything gets more complicated, like exponentially sometimes. So I think I know how to fix the maze so that it behaves like a real maze, where it'll bump you back in the opposite direction. But it's going to involve a bunch of nested if statements that I don't want to do right now. But I think I got it. I'll definitely be talking about it at our Scratch Coffee Hour, which is Thursday at 3:30 this week. I think that's going to be a weekly thing where we can all just meet up and share programs that we're working on, questions that we have, problems that we're having, like, oh, I cannot figure out how to get this to work. What is a good way that you guys could help me to find something like that? So if you said when you registered for this that you wanted the Scratch Coffee Hour link, I'll be sending that out probably tomorrow. And that doesn't have a set agenda. It's just going to be, let's talk about Scratch and share our problems. Little group therapy session for our Scratch. So any luck on getting us to see what this math is right and left but not up and down situation?
PowerPoint.
All right, I'm going to pop it back over to this program just so we can see. Okay. Right now, my program's called Untitled. I'm going to call this Math Maze Crystal. It has automatically saved for me. If it hadn't automatically saved, I would see a little thing that says Save Now right over here by the folder icon. This folder icon has all of my programs in it. This share button is what lets other people on the Scratch website see your project. So when you click share, it'll say your project is now shared. Oh, it didn't update the name, so I'm going to do that. Okay, and then other people can view yours. If this weren't my page, if it was one of yours, you would see a button here that says remix where you could change the things in the maze. And that's a good way to get kids going on Scratch programs, but some of them are very complicated. And so you want to find a nice, simple program to start with. Right? Like some of these are going to have just wild code, and some of them are maybe not going to be exactly appropriate for your age level and different things. But on any of these, if I click on them, I can see this remix button up here, and I can click See Inside to look at their code. So most of the time when I click See Inside, I'm like, oh gosh, this is wildly more complicated than I thought it was. This seemed like such a simple thing, and now there's all this, and that's just the first sprite, right? So it's an interesting feature, See Inside, but you also want to make sure that you're not overwhelming your students with things at first. Okay, I haven't checked the chat in a minute. I don't know that I have a ton of other things to share. I'll be doing this training again next week. I will also be doing the other two, the basic Scratch and the story time one, in case you were interested in those and didn't get a chance to attend. I don't think I've got any more trainings scheduled this week. I'm doing a pilot student workshop. So hopefully at some point in the future, we'll be able to get groups of students like from a school or a classroom together, and I would be happy to talk them through making a particular program if you are happy to be there as a virtual chaperone. So we'd have the same kind of meeting as this. I wouldn't record it, but you would be able to learn with your students while I walk you through something like this. And I figure that would probably be somewhere around an hour to do that. So if you have students who have internet access and would be interested in doing that, that would be something I would love to do, and just email me about that and we can get it set up. Um, Also, if you have a group of educators at your school or in your county or at your library district that you would like me to do some Scratch training for, I'm happy to do that. If we have a small group, it can be really helpful because then people can feel a lot more free to ask questions than in some of the larger trainings that we're doing. If there are things you would like to see, let us know. We're really scrambling and working and trying to find good professional development that we can deliver virtually, and Scratch seems like a great start to that. If there are other things you want to see, please let us know. I'm going to be sending you a survey that's a Google form. Once you fill it out, you'll get a certificate that says that you attended today and that you got an hour of training. That survey is really helpful for us. It's how we document and justify our grant and show how much outreach we're doing. So I really would appreciate it if you would fill that out. I'm going to send out one mailing for the storytelling and for this one at the same time. So if you attended both of those, you would just complete it twice, once for each of the trainings. Okay. Are there other questions or other things that I can help with? Thank you for watching my goofy program sort of work most of the time. Scratch is not my, it's something I do, but it's not something that's very, very, that I'm very good at, but I have a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. Thank you for bearing with me through this whole thing.